Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 11 of Omaha's Henry Dooley Zoo. We are back in the Desert Dome, the zoo's iconic building which hosts a wide variety of desert animals from around the world. This episode we travel to the Australian desert, Australia's red centre, and build for rock wallabies and a range of reptiles inside a rocky cave. Inspiration for this habitat is mainly based on the real zoo. This is a small walk-through wallaby habitat based on many of the rocky landscapes of the Australian Red Centre. The Red Centre is the southern desert region of Australia's Northern Territory, a landscape known for its unique rock formations and rocky gorges, the most famous of which is Uluru or Ayers Rock, which this wallaby habitat is what I think's a small representation of. To the left of the wallaby habitat is the desert cave, where there are many different kinds of reptiles from Africa and Australia. Looking at my own map of the Desert Dome, we can see the Australia Red Centre is in the upper central area, where there is one wallaby habitat to the left and there is the desert cave with various exhibits to the right. It connects to the Namib Desert we did before, which takes up a large portion of the right side of the dome, leading to the left side of the dome where there's a Sonoran Desert which is still to come. We start off with an awfully small looking area. The pre-placed paths we saw in the first episode of the Desert Dome is far too small for a walk-through wallaby habitat. The path is being reworked to allow some ground space for the wallaby to move around. This does come at the cost of limiting the space for the desert cave. But however, the static reptile exhibits are not the attraction the rock wallabies are. The path widened allows the wallabies to move in this central area and guests stick to the outer space. The keeper gate is placed as well, ensuring the gate functions. This is very important for the smaller habitats. Previous builds like Calgary Zoo's Penguin Plunge were a nightmare with the gate because the terrain and water interfered, leading to almost an hour of absolute torture. Continuing the trend of endless faux rocks in the Desert Dome, the wallaby habitat will be surrounded by a large rock wall. With these rock arches will provide access to the desert cave and the next desert section. These rock groups allow easy building rather than placing every rock individually. A sloped rock wall, like we saw in the African desert, is what the look I'm aiming for most of the Desert Dome. These darker coloured rocks will form the base of a desert waterfall as a wet rock appearance. Using the water effects is a little difficult, especially in a tight space and only one in a thin waterfall. Rotating the effects just right, usually on its side, allows the preferred look. Waterfall top and middle effects are used inside the rocks. The flow is rather aggressive for a desert waterfall, but it's not that I can use the pre-built waterfalls because they are massive, because they will block space inside the desert cave. Rocks are then added onto the top of the waterfall to create a carved or eroded appearance above the water. Rock piles are also added at the bottom of the water pool to hide the ugly terrain, and also it hides the effect for the waterfall bottom. Next is the rocky cliff. Large flat rocks provide easy access for the wallabies, as the hitboxes for the rocks is rather annoying. With wallabies now inside the habitat, the rock slope can be built and checked it actually works. One of the most common mistakes I see is people building these complex habitats and only adding animals into the end to find out it doesn't work. Surprised the wallabies can traverse a steep slope, only the top of the rocks provides a challenge, easily fixed by adding some of the number 4 folk rocks, as their sloped top works great for this. With the upper habitat now fully accessible, work on the top of the cliff can start, again simply using these rock groups to make short work of this. The traverse areas are repeatedly checked to ensure the wallabies don't start throwing a tantrum that they can't move. The central rock support is also added to the upper cliff. Magical floating rock roofs don't have a place in my recreations. Smooth rocks are also added to add a nice variety to the habitat rocks as well. These tall rocks allow the access for the wallabies to be easier because they don't block too much of the area behind them, especially there we can see shelter bedding behind. Using thicker rocks that may look nicer will completely block access to the enrichment we have on the left. With the hard part finished, I can begin the foliage work, looking at a variety of Australian desert habitats. A mix of crimson turkey bush, spinifex grass, spiny head mattrass and wattle bushes are placed randomly across the lower habitat. I also have some of my custom desert foliage to assist here as well, providing some thicker foliage elements to the habitat. Wattle bush doesn't really work just as good on its own. These bushes were designed originally for African theme, but it can work with the Australian theme as well. To finish here, ghost gum saplings are added to fill out the gaps, along with adding a distinct Australian area in the desert dome. Here we also see some Sturt's desert rose also added, another one of my custom desert plants. With the sand looking a little bare, dried drin grass is added, not buffalo grass. I tried buffalo grass, but it didn't work with the aesthetic of the desert dome. The drin with its pale yellow colour works nicely with the sand terrain. Filling in this gap in the rock wall is the first of the reptile exhibits, a custom-built reptile exhibit using the rocks as the exhibit box. The walls, floor and roof of the exhibit are rocks, where guests look through a glass panel made with the thin glass panel and conservation slats as a border. A slat border is very important for realism when creating glass exhibits like this. Adding just glass doesn't really look that great, especially with the rugged pattern of the rocks kind of ruining the appearance. Layered rocks and small rock piles are used to decorate the inside of the exhibit. We don't really want a boring square boxes that ruin the natural atmosphere the desert dome is going for. Several spotlights coloured a very dark orange are used to light up the exhibit. They're both placed above and below the exhibit for the best lighting quality. It helps us create a kind of desert kind of exhibit along with easily seeing the animals. They are placed at angles that allow the best lighting. Placing directly below or above it does not result in a good quality. Habitat branches are then added as enrichment for the animal. The static props will just love these branches, so much they will just sit and stare in sheer excitement. Of course, just rocks isn't any better. Some drin grass and spinifex grass are also placed inside. Are they small enough to enhance the exhibit without poking through the roof, also adding an Australian kind of feel to the exhibit. This exhibit is home to the Shingleback skink, a short-tailed, slow-moving species of the blue-tongued skink. All of these reptile props used can be found in my reptile prop collection, which we will see along with the monitors, snakes and other lizards will be used in the desert cave. There will be 9 more of these exhibits in the desert cave, but honestly no one wants to see 9 of these built, so I will show 1 more. The first exhibit in the desert cave seen when moving from the Namib desert is the puff adder. The desert cave is split about 50-50 between African and Australian reptiles. A similar but unique exhibit is built for the puff adder. The same build list of rocks and dry grass are used, while I also add moss decals coloured to a sand colour also adding a century plant for a more African style of exhibit. Habitat branches and similar enrichment is also added in a different kind of layout. The desert cave isn't strictly desert species. The puff adder and other species like the black mamba and rough-scaled python are more grassland species. Typical of a real zoo though, not every animal matches the theme. Let's tour the built area now. We started in the mid-desert, the African section of the desert dome. Here we can see where we last left off with the banded mongoose habitat, although I don't currently have the mod installed, so the habitat is currently empty. Here we move into the desert cave. Lit up by orange lights, we can see a nice themed reptile exhibit all the way along. So we first got the puff adder exhibit, with the snakes sneaking along these rocks here. Got the giant plated lizard. Black mamba. One of the most famous snakes in Africa. Also got a Cape Cobra. Cobras won't naturally do the upright posture in a zoo, but just for the visual effect. So we've got a shield-tailed gamma. I think one of the smallest reptile on display in this desert cave. Although this is the smallest I can go making reptile props. So we now enter the red centre of Australia. So we have the most venomous snake in the world, inland taipan. We also got the collect snake, colourful snake for the desert, bright red and black, as you can see on this branch. We got a large exhibit for Parenti, a desert monitor species. Obviously, if making a monitor habitat for this, it would not work at all because it's far too small. I have attempted such with the Nile monitor and it did not end well. And the last reptile in the desert cave is the rough-scaled python, which we should be able to see in the back on the branch. Blends in well if it's camouflage. So we go through these double doors. I added these, I couldn't see any reference for them. Help keep the wallabies inside this walkthrough habitat. So we've got the desert waterfall to the left. We've got the wallaby walkthrough habitat all along here. Signage for the wallabies. So there's a rock slope the wallabies can climb up. There's shelter bedding and there is enrichment to encourage them to travel. We've got a small aviary for the kookaburra, masked lapwing, and tawny frogmouth. It seems to be this is the most common Australian species kill held in American aviaries. Not that they know there is many other birds in Australia they could keep instead. So they got lots of branches and pretty much just branches and grass really, not the best aviary. So got signage on the red centre telling us about the rock formations, the Aboriginal connections, and where the red centre is in Australia. Got a wallaby on the path right here. Quite a colourful species. Also we have the Shingleback skink, the last reptile in the Australian area. So unlike real life, the wallabies do frequent the lower habitat. In the real exhibit, when they had wallabies, they would be restricted to the upper area because they hated the idea of the walkthrough. On ZooChat is now listed as a former wallaby habitat. But since we don't have any welfare settings on, the wallabies don't mind.